Hey folks, welcome back for yet another build video. This time around, we're answering the question, how much skill haste can you possibly have? So let's run through the build and then we'll get into the math. So we've gone with the technician specialization here right off the top. If you want the absolute max possible skill haste, you're actually going to want to go with the survivalist specialization, as the crunch time talent gives you an additional 10% skill haste while you are in cover. But in order to make this build slightly more attainable, and that's a relative term, I went ahead and went with the technician specialization, which means you do not have to roll the Gila Guard nor Brazos de Arquebus armor cores into skill tiers, so long as you have the TDI card and the technician specialization unlocked. So for our primary weapon, we have the Harmony for the perfectly in sync talent. For our secondary weapon, we have the Scorpio shotgun for close-up encounters, but the majority of the time you're going to be running with your sidearm, which is the aforementioned TDI card custom for that +1 skill tier. For our mask, we have the Chill Out mask, specifically for its unique ability to allow you to equip 2 mods on one mask. So as you can see down there, we have 36% total skill haste between the 1 attribute and the 2 mod slots. For our backpack, we've gone with the named Hana-U Corporation Force Multiplier. The Perfectly Combined Arms talent is quite nice to increase the skill damage, but if you want to go with a different backpack, you certainly can. You just have to have a Hana-U brand set for that plus 10% skill haste. And then the attributes, we've gone with skill haste and skill damage, as well as skill haste in the mod slots throughout all 6 pieces. For our chest piece, we have our Brazos de Arquebus for that plus 10% skill haste as well. And then additionally, we have skill haste, skill damage, and skill haste in our mod slot. For our talent, we've gone with skilled, just to increase the chance of getting a fresh reset on our skill cooldowns. But you could certainly go with a different skill here if you just want to buff the damage. Glass cannon is an obvious candidate. Kinetic momentum won't really work given how often you are resetting your skills. For our gloves, we've gone with our first improvised gear piece here. So we'll get into it now. The next 3 pieces are all going to be improvised pieces, specifically for the ability that improvised gear has, which allows you to put a mod on a piece of gear that may not otherwise have it, namely the gloves, holster, and knee pads. As you can see down there, all 3 of those pieces have mods equipped, and in this case, it is all skill haste. So you'll have to play the random number generator game a little bit, but it should be a little less painful than normal. You're just looking for a piece of gear that has a skill tier on it and ideally skill damage, and then you can re-roll that second attribute to skill haste, as you can see I've done on all of the following 3 pieces. For our holster, we have an improvised gear piece as well. This is the minor reduction in skill haste that I have here. You lose 0.5% because that's not a perfect skill haste mod. And then the same here, you lose 0.2% on the knee pads. So for our skills, we went with the Jammer Pulse and the Cluster Seeker Mine. I've used the Jammer Pulse skill on other builds. I've talked about it before. It's one that I quite like. On top of applying the Disrupt status effect, occasionally you'll stagger an enemy, which is a great way to give yourself a second of free time or an opening to press an advantage. And with the amount of skill haste that we have stacked on this build, the 11-second cooldown feels so much faster than normal. And it really just gives you a skill that you can almost always reach for when you need it. When you need to go spam that Jammer Pulse, apply Disrupt on a target, it's almost always available for you. You get the Cluster Seeker Mines, doing all of the fun damage they normally do. And I find it pairs really well with the skilled talent. Every time one of these cluster mines kills an enemy, you've got a 25% chance to reset the already reduced cooldown time. So we've gone through the build, let's get into the math. How do you get to that magic number, that 186% skill haste? So let's lay it out. We get 10% while we're in cover from the survivalist. We get 36% from the Chill Out mask. 34% from Hana-U with the 10% skill haste bonus, and 24% from the skill haste attribute and mod. The same with Browsers to Arquebus, 10% from the skill haste brand bonus, 24% from the skill haste attribute and mod, and then all three pieces of the improvised gear give us 24% each for a grand total of 186% skill haste. So while the build I put together falls a little short of that 186 with only 173.5%, this is the blueprint for how you would get the maximum possible skill haste available in the game today. With specifically using the Jammer Pulse, it feels incredible. You have it active way more often than you're normally used to. But obviously, skill haste was not really meant to be used in this way. It is, by its very nature, a diminishing returns attribute. The more skill haste you have, the less effective each percent you apply is. So this is not me saying this is a build you should absolutely go out and use. It's just, this was an academic curiosity of mine and a few other users on the internet. I wanted to put this together and get this out here for anyone who's also been interested. How do you put it together? What does it look like? Here's your answer. I'm wasting my time putting it together, so you don't have to if you don't want to. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Hardwired is a great gear set, and this is not meant as a replacement for it or even necessarily an improvement on it. It's more meant, again, as an academic curiosity. How much skill haste can you pile on a build? The quantitative answer to that is 186%. And the qualitative one is somewhat surprising. It feels pretty nice. It's fun to use, and you can mix and match your skills to fit your needs. That being said, it does take a lot longer to put together than a good hardwired set. Even the build I put together wasn't perfectly optimized. Hardwired is very convenient, and I do highly recommend it. It honestly is more usable than I was expecting it to be, but that's something you'll have to decide for yourself. If you do try this out, let me know what you think of it in the comments. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more weird stuff like this, and we will see you in the next one. One quick variation that I will suggest for this build if you do try it out, instead of going with the chill out mask, you can also go with the vial mask here, specifically if you're going to pair it with the Jammer Pulse skill. As I've talked about previously, the disrupt status effect on the Jammer Pulse does proc toxic delivery, giving your Jammer Pulses a little bit more bite than they otherwise have. And as we just discussed with diminishing returns, you really lose less than a second of cooldown time on your Jammer Pulse, even when you give up the extra 24% provided by the chill out mask.
Asshole!
The Black Tusk are attacking the satellite dishes. Agent, take them out.
Satellite dish A under attack. Satellite dish C under attack.
I'll deal with them. Vision agent targeted. EMP! It's in sight. Triangle asset!
Satellite dish C under attack. Satellite dish B under attack.
one's here. I got no line of sight here. Get down.
Satellite uplink detected.